How does a theater get a personality? More to the point, how has the Manhattan Theatre Club managed to make audiences feel like guests in the home of a great host? Welcome to Women in Theater. I'm Linda Weiner, theater critic and arts columnist at Newsday. And our guest today is Lynne Meadow, who in 30 years has built Manhattan Theatre Club from just another off-Broadway experiment to a leading off-Broadway theater, and now, soon, to Broadway. Hi.
Hi, Linda.
Broadway?
Broadway. We're Broadway bound.
When? What?
Well, a new theater that we're adding to our two theaters on 55th Street at City Center. A new theater is being created. It is as yet to be named, but soon there will be a wonderful name there of some terrific individual who gives us several $1 million. But it is now the new theater.
But not a corporation? We're not going to have the...
Well, I think we're not excluding anyone now. We're just hoping that it will be some kind, benevolent person who really loves the theater as much as we do. And it'll be ready in October of 2003. And it's an addition, so it's a third theater to our already existing two theaters on 55th Street.
And are you going to do separate productions in that theater specifically for that theater, or is that going to be something that when you have a success on 55th Street, you may move it there?
No, the idea is that we will produce our shows there. We'll be producing in 3 venues, but this is not a theater that we're creating to be a transfer house to Broadway. This is a theater that we're creating to do our work on 47th Street, which happens to be Broadway, and it will be Broadway, but the idea of it is that it's Manhattan Theatre Club on Broadway, and that will carry something different, hopefully.
Can you explain what's the difference between off-Broadway and Broadway? Because I think most people think, well, all those, 47th Street, that's not on Broadway, that's off-Broadway.
Right.
So it's really just a contract, right?
Right. Well, it's a contract, but it's also a particular district. It's the number of seats.
How many seats
in a house? There will be 650, I think, between 625 and 650. That's
as opposed to 299.
As opposed to now 299 and 150.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, it is a big difference. Yeah. But a Broadway contract, the Broadway area is a specifically designated area from, I think it's 51st Street to, I don't know, 40th Street. So there's definitely a Broadway zone, and there's a certain number of theaters that are included in that. But for us, the idea is to produce this work that we've been doing for 30 years on a bigger canvas, to open up our work to a larger audience, to take the playwrights whose work we've done on a smaller scale, and to really put the work on a larger canvas. So it's a very exciting time for us at Manhattan Theatre Club.
It's scary, yeah.
Scary and exciting.
I remember one time you said that when things stop seeming impossible, that's probably the time to stop.
Yeah, I guess that's still true.
Is that what started this? Is this?
Yes. Well, you know, this has been the idea of Manhattan Theatre Club adding another space has been in the works for some time. My partner Barry Grove has...
how you've been with Barry for
28 years.
28 years.
28 years. We've had a wonderful partnership, and his feeling was that we had such a ceiling on the amount of audience members, the number of audience members we could house, the amount of income that we could produce in a 299-seat theater. And of course we try to serve so many playwrights in the course of a season, and there's also so much work that goes on behind the scenes at Manhattan Theatre Club. It's an expensive proposition to run this nonprofit theater. So the idea of adding another theater had an artistic genesis, obviously, which was do this work that we're doing for more people, and do it, as I said, on a larger canvas. But the other idea is that Barry had is there should be a little bit more revenue that comes in. I think all it means now is we're just going to have to raise more money to support the work that we do, but that's what we've been doing for 30 years, and hopefully that will continue.
And you'll be Tony eligible now.
Yes, we will. We will be
That's really so
eligible.
tacky, isn't it? But it does matter, right?
Well, it does. It matters, and it matters a lot to the artists who work in the theater, and it matters. There's so much of the work that we've done over the years that has gotten recognition, and some that's gotten less recognition than others, and we feel that now we're just a little bit more in the limelight where we feel we should be.
While we're just talking about that, now Frankie and Johnny at the Claire de Lune
yes.
was originally a Manhattan Theatre Club
yes,
production. 10 years ago.
Yes, it was.
Now the one that's been on Broadway is such a success this season. Do you guys get money from that?
I don't know if we do or not. We probably get some tiny percentage.
Must be frustrating. Lovely, but frustrating.
Right.
But don't you want to say, hey, that's us?
Yeah. It's interesting because I guess what it's become is the revival of a classic. But this was a show that I asked Terrence McNally to write after we did his first play called It's Only a Play. And we did this in our stage 2. It was the first production in our stage 2. We did it as a workshop. We did not open it to the press. And then, and Kathy Bates did it. And then we moved it into our larger theater, our 299-seat theater the next year, and then it moved off Broadway. So we do feel a great sense of propriety about it, and I feel proud that it's now being revived as, I guess, something of a classic.
Sure, and a star vehicle.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
But it's interesting because I think if you think about Frankie and Johnny and what that represents for the work that Manhattan Theatre Club has done in the past, that is the kind of a play that we would do at the New Theatre. Certainly it would have a home at the New Theatre. However, if it's successful in a commercial sense at the New Theatre, it will then transfer to either to a Broadway house or potentially to an off-Broadway house. I'm not sure.
So it's not. It wouldn't just sit down at the former Biltmore Theatre.
Right.
At the theater formerly known as the Biltmore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, we're not creating this theater as a way to transfer our work.
Okay.
We really want to generate new work on Broadway. And, you know, for so many years now, there's really been a paucity of new plays and the amount of time that a new play will run, so that we're really proud of the productions that we moved last year.
Which was
actually
Proof,
2 years ago.
Proof and Tale of the Allergist's Wife.
Right.
And Proof you won a Pulitzer Prize
Exactly,
for. Yes.
and the Tony. And both, the Tale of the Allergist's Wife, which closed in September of 2002, was the second longest running play at the Biltmore Theatre, second only to Streetcar Named Desire.
Wow.
And Proof, which is running and will close at the Walter Kerr Theatre January 15th, that now is the longest running play in the last 17 years. So the idea of a not-for-profit theater that stands behind writers trying to keep work running for a certain period of time is something we're very committed to, Barry and I.
And opening it up to a broader, to a larger audience,
Definitely.
so that it becomes a destination for
tourists,
not your hardcore theater goers.
Exactly. For tourists, for people who are not subscribers necessarily. You know, subscribers get the best deal, they get the early look, but of course you want your work to be seen by more people.
Now, Manhattan Theatre Club, except for the plays that you do that are imported playwrights, but you always do your own productions.
Right.
But it's all new plays. Have you ever done a revival?
We have. We've done revivals.
American revival?
Yes, we've done. I directed a production of The Seagull, in a translation by Jean-Claude Van Italy with Diane Wiest and Sam Waterston, Christine Ebersol a number of years ago. And we did a number of productions of Joe Orton. We did What the Butler Saw and Loot, which were revivals.
But they're not American.
That's true. We did Athol Fugard's work. Early on, we did Busman and Lena and The Blood Knot.
Yeah.
We did.
But all the American plays are new.
That's true. Well, we did Paul Osborne. We did a revival of a Paul Osborne play.
Same Summer House?
No, not. We did one called Oliver.
Oh.
A number of years ago.
Before I was born.
Well, I don't know.
Yes, yes.
I think it was the year you were born.
You believe that was before I was born.
I think it was maybe the year you were born.
So is there a Manhattan Theatre Club play? What do you look for?
That's an interesting question, one that I've been asked a number of times, and I always pause and hesitate because I think it's really a question of taste, isn't it? And I've always said that my own taste is very eclectic, and it's why a season of work at Manhattan Theatre Club will include everything from Athol Fugard to Beth Henley to John Patrick Shanley to Terrence McNally and A.R. Gurney Jr. There's a variety of writers whose work I've been interested in. I think there's a certain level of intelligence about all the plays that we do, but sometimes we do plays that are just for fun. Sometimes we do plays that are serious. I feel that each play has its own reason for being done, and each writer has his or her own reason for being supported. The tendency that I've had at Manhattan Theatre Club all these years is to try to support a writer's work and not just a particular play. So it's why
there really is body of work.
There is.
If you look back.
Yeah. If you look, it's sort of. Our track record really consists of multiple productions by a writer. So we've done 6 or 7 of Donald Margulies' plays, and this was our second of Charles Bush's plays. We're doing, this is the third, this season, the production of Kimberly Akimbo represents the third play by David Lindsay Abaire that we will have done in the last 3 years. So we tend to stand behind a writer, and we've done a number of Pete Gurney's plays, and we did a number of Beth Henley's plays.
Well, when I said at the beginning that this is a theater that makes you feel as if you're in the home of a wonderful host,
Thank you.
I don't mean that you're out there shaking everyone's hand, but that I think there are theaters that when you have consistently, when you have enough good times in that theater, there's just the walls feel good. I think that whenever I know I'm going to the Manhattan Theatre Club, I'm glad. I don't think, oh God, I've seen too many bad things there. But it really, even when it may not be to my personal taste, a particular play that you've chosen, and we know which ones they are, that the level of production, the professionalism, it's so meticulous.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
there's never one of those moments when you think, I'm uncomfortable, the actors are uncomfortable, why am I here? But it's always absolutely, those are pros. And
these are great words coming from you, Linda. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, it's
Thank
interesting.
you for noticing.
It's interesting because when we talked, we're working with James Polshek, the architect, to design our new theater, working closely with him and with John Lee Beatty, one of our beloved set designers and a member of our board of directors who's been advising. And when I met with Jim Polshek to talk about the feeling that I wanted in the new theater, I said I want it to feel very comfortable. And it is Broadway, so there has to be a certain level of glitz attached to it. I said, but I want people to feel as if in some way they're coming to this theater as opposed to the fact that they're coming to this play. And Broadway, of course, is characterized by going to see a play or a musical.
Yeah, it's always it's one-stop shopping.
Yes, and you don't know necessarily where you're going.
Right.
You're going to see the new Neil Simon play. You don't know what theater it's necessarily going to be playing at. But I think from the beginning the idea has always been that you should know that you're going to the Manhattan Theatre Club. And if we can manage to create that on the Broadway theater, I think we'll be creating something kind of welcoming and hopefully gracious, and maybe making clear to people what the role of a theater can be in a community, and an ongoing theater, and a theater that is not just concerned about doing the work, the present work that it's doing, but is also looking to the future. So that if you're doing the work of a playwright, that perhaps a play that's flawed, it's because you believe that that playwright in 2 or 3 more tries is really going to write something wonderful. And it is a different mindset when you go to a theater and you're part of the process, and you're part of the adventure, and you should feel warm, and you should feel as if you've been welcomed into something that feels like home.
I remember we were on a panel soon after 9/11.
Yes, I remember.
And you were saying that if you were planning your season then, after 9/11, it would have been a different season, and that you weren't really sure how your choices would have been different, but that you would have, that possibly the plays last year weren't the plays you felt like seeing now after that.
Right.
Has that feeling continued? Are you now planning this season and the coming season in the shadow of? Yes,
in the shadow of 9/11, definitely. I think what's interesting is that when you put together a season as an artistic director, of course, part of your job, in addition to directing individual plays or musicals, is to create the shape of the entire season. And that process, an agonizing one often, and one that requires a lot of deliberation, certainly on my part, is actually not an intellectually driven exercise. It really is the kind of process that happens after which if I've been close enough to what my own instincts are, I say, oh, I see what I was drawn to, and I see what theme emerged. I don't approach it intellectually and say, okay, this is the theme that we'd like. Post 9/11, I think we should be doing work that says X, Y, or Z.
Well, certainly isn't that the way audiences react to?
Definitely.
And critics, we hope, react
Definitely.
to. It's not really an intellect. It's an instinct.
Absolutely.
You know, the intellectual thing happens afterwards to try to analyze it.
If we're doing our jobs well, I think the intellectual thing happens afterwards. But what was fascinating to me as I looked at the choices that we made, I with my staff, for the 2002-2003 season, many of the plays that have been selected are plays that revolve around personal identity and people dealing with their closest sense of personal identity and grappling with the deepest personal issues. One play in particular is very much a play where the message, if there is a message, is carpe diem, to seize the moment.
Which play is that?
This is a play called Kimberly Akimbo.
Yes,
to seize the day and to be in the moment, and a personality that's a strange personality moving in an odd way in time. And so the plays are very much about grappling with our personal identity, which I think is finally the artist's best way of dealing with crisis and dealing with a change in consciousness, which is what I think has happened.
Surely it isn't a coincidence that you see your season opened with plays by African American women who are also actresses, who are also in their plays.
Right.
In the small theater is Charlene Woodard in real life,
right.
a playwright that whom you've been nurturing.
Yes.
And in the large theater is Dale Orlando Smith's Yellow Man.
Yes.
Did you think about these as bookends when you did it?
Definitely.
Why?
We had committed to Dale Orlando Smith to do her piece Yellow Man, and part of Manhattan Theatre Club's mission, as you know, Linda, is to as much as there's a commitment to writers whose work we've done, we're always trying to keep the door open to new writers and to introduce new writers to New York and to our audiences. Dale's work has been done in New York, but it's probably not as widely known as hopefully it will become. So we had made a commitment to Dale, and then Charlene Woodard, who did two other pieces with us, actually the world premiere of Neat and Pretty Fire were done at Manhattan Theatre Club. I think it was Pretty Fire that we did the first one, and then Neat was done out in Seattle, and then we did it. But Charlene indicated that she really would like to do her work in New York, and I felt it would be wonderful to open the season with these two amazing women who are both writers and are both performers and are both women and are both African American and are both speaking about their experiences, you know, personal experiences. Dale's is a fictionalized account, but something that is a very deeply personal story that she's dredged up out of the collective unconscious.
Apropos of women in theater, we, when you and I were growing into our professions, it was hard, but in some ways I think it's harder now. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's...
For women?
For women. Do you think that... Tell the audience about your experiences at Yale, because mm-hmm. you grew up in New Haven mm-hmm. when Yale was an all-male university, and you had to go someplace else. And you do it.
Okay.
You do. I know your bio, but you know it too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I always wanted to, or I think from the time I was in the 8th grade, I wanted to be a director. I really wanted to be an actress, but I felt
no 8th grader wants to be a director.
I know, I did. Well, I had my homeroom teacher, Mr. O'Reilly, was such a bad director that when we did our homeroom play, I really had to help him out.
Were you bossy?
I wasn't
Were you a bossy
kid? But I just didn't like Mr. O'Reilly's aesthetic.
Well,
so
thank you, Mr. O'Reilly.
I helped him out by directing the homeroom play with him. That consisted, of course, of being on stage and whispering to Beverly Gam what she had to do while I was on stage in the junior high school. But I guess I was convinced at the time that I really was a great actress, only I needed a terrific director. And what I realized was, no, I really didn't have very many acting skills, but that I could be a terrific director. So that was early on, and the Yale Drama School existed in my hometown, and that was the place I wanted to go. my parents urged me to get a liberal arts education, and so I went to Bryn Mawr for 4 years and majored in French, and then
graduated well.
I did.
Very well.
I did. I graduated with honors and had my French behind me.
And then got rejected by Yale Drama School.
Yes, I did, which was the place that I always wanted to be a student. And my father said to me, why don't you go to Yale in French? And I said, I'm really not interested in studying French. I want to go into the theater.
But you went to Yale Drama School.
I did.
I love this.
I did.
You said, no, you have to take me, right?
I did. I was so horrified at the idea that I had been put on the waiting list. And I got on the train in Philadelphia, and I went up to New Haven. I asked to meet with the dean, and I said, I just don't understand why wasn't I accepted at the school.
And you thought it was because you were a woman?
Well, you know, this was back in the late 60s, and the women's movement really was just beginning. I mean, there were just starting to be these consciousness-raising groups.
I was a little teeny critic.
Yeah, you were. You were a little baby critic. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And so there wasn't. I didn't have a sense of a political agenda that was supported by what was going on at the time. I just knew that I really wanted to study directing, and I knew that I could be a good director. So when I went to Yale, I said, I don't understand, why wasn't I accepted? And the dean said to me, well, this was very, very competitive. There were hundreds of applications for only 5 places, and so it was a very competitive process. And I said, but it seems to me I'm at the top of the heap. And he said, well, your application was good, but there are many other qualified people. At which point it dawned on me, maybe I was turned down because I was a woman. And I said to him, is it possible that you turned me down because I'm a woman? And he denies that he said this, but I will never forget the words. He said, well, to tell you the truth, we haven't had much luck with the women here. And I knew there had been a woman 2 classes ahead of me. There were no women except in the class 1 year ahead of what would be my class. And that summer, I took a job in New Haven, and then I wrote a very impassioned treatise, a letter, explaining why, as a woman, I would make a good director and maybe a better director than a guy. And 2 days later, I was accepted at the Yale School of Drama. I was told that the first I was the first alternate, and that the one person had dropped out of school.
Just happened to happen just after the letter.
It just happened to happen.
In '78, I found this old clip where you said, I feel we're at the beginning of a new generation of women in the theater. Where'd it go?
Well, I think it has become better. I mean, if you look at the names that are talked about to do a musical, people talk about Susan Stroman to do a musical. She certainly has made a tremendous, and Graziella Daniele to direct musicals. Women were, back in 1978, there was not a woman entrusted with a multi-million-dollar musical. And now I think anybody would be thrilled to have Susan Stroman or Graziella Daniele direct a musical for them. So while I think we have a long way to go, we are by no means in a situation that a woman would say that it's great to be a woman working in the theater and directing in the theater. I do think we've come a distance since 1978. Gary Hines, who is a woman, did win a Tony for directing The Beauty Queen of Lebanon, and The Tale of the Allergist's Wife did run for 2 years, directed by a woman. It took me a long time to get there.
Do you feel a pressure at all to have women playwrights?
I feel a desire. I feel a yearning to have.
Because in fact, you are the only woman in charge of a major resident theater here.
Yes,
right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And actually, we can quibble about that, but you're certainly in charge of the biggest one.
Right.
Right.
Right. But there are women who are women in charge of theaters.
Yes, but this is the major.
Yes, and I think where I am unusual also is that I'm a director. I think increasingly the people who are running the theaters, the larger institutional theaters in New York, are not directors. So I'm an artistic director who is a director.
You try to direct one a season?
Yes. Well, I have a son who is going to be going to college, and I do one or two a season. And I'm sure now, with my son going away to college, I will have more time to be taken up in the evenings, the way that a production takes you up in the evenings.
I was at a luncheon for journalists, and Barbara Walters said, women, in her keynote, she said, women, remember this, you can't have all three. You can have two of the three, but you can't do all three well, one will suffer. And here you are with this profession and this wonderful, successful child, and this marriage to a entertainment lawyer, right?
He's a labor lawyer, and he does labor lawyer.
But entertainment lawyer? Labor?
Some. Yeah. Although my husband, Ron Checkman, represents the fire officers of the city of New York, as well as the directors union. So he's his career includes some theater, but not all, which is, I think, what makes it a happy marriage.
One last quick question. As a woman, if there's one thing you could change right now about theater in New York, what would it be?
I think I wish there were more opportunities for women directors, for women to come along and to do what I'm doing. You know, I'm hoping we can have a mentorship program I have a wonderful assistant named Amy Gilks, who's hopefully moving into the theater to do the kinds of work that I do. And I think it's really important that we look to the next generation.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, if I had one choice right now, I wish I'd have more time because we're out. But thank you so much, Lynne Meadow, Artistic Director of Manhattan Theater Club. And thank you for joining us. On behalf of the League of Professional Theater Women, I'm Linda Weiner, and this has been Women in Theater.